Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Smallville, Kansas, creamed corn capital of the world. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that, look, it's a bird. No, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. No, it's a kryptonite meteor shower. Buckle up. We are taking evasive action.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer for a Superman-themed episode. How are you boys doing today?
Oh, I'm ready to cheer on my Smallville crows. Call! Let's go, boys.
I just want to let everyone know that if you are a small child found in a cornfield after an air accident, you should probably call Boeing and not Krypton.
Well, gentlemen, this week, in honor of the new James Gunn Superman coming out tomorrow, after this episode debuts, we're taking a visit to Superman in high school, played by Tom Welling. But before we do so, Max, do you mind telling our super friends what this podcast is all about?
And here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes in making us want to watch more, and I think we made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, since this is a pilot about Superman, obviously we get introduced to the element kryptonite, Superman's only weakness right now. And that's for you, Jeff. And yeah, I want to know, if you are Clark Kent, what is your kryptonite?
So are you putting this in the sense of, like, us today? What do we think our regular kryptonite is in the real world?
Right now.
Well, I'm going to speak to my attention deficit and say boredom. Boredom is my kryptonite. Boy, if you give me some time to just be in a quiet space, boy, does my mind do wild things that puts me into a queasy mood. So please give me something to look at, read, doom scroll on, so that I don't have to sit with my own thoughts because they're devastating. Max, what about you? What's your kryptonite?
Jeff, that was deep, dark, and esoteric. Mine's bananas. I have a strong aversion to the fruit banana, and even just the smell of it in a room can drive me to my knees, giving me a horrible gagging reflex.
Now, okay, so Max, I knew this about you, but for bananas, is it the modern banana as we know it, or is it the banana runts flavor, which is actually the original pre-famine or biological extinction of the old type of banana?
No, it is the modern banana of bunch form. It's an every senses thing.
So
it's a texture, it's a taste, it's a smell.
Let's just do a quick yay or nay. Straight bananas.
Nay.
Banana pudding.
Nay.
Banana bread.
Nay.
Banana runts.
Nay.
Oh, fuck.
Banana flambe.
Nay.
Oh my God, this is devastating. Well,
telling me banana? Nay. The banana dance? Nay.
Damn.
Wearing comical banana suits from a party city? Nay.
Well, Rich, maybe yours is a little bit less devastating than Max's and mine.
Well, when I asked this question originally, I probably should have realized that Jeff and I would have the same answer. But in a beautiful Superman episode, Superman has to deal with kryptonite being in his brain chemistry. Yeah, it's bad. I can't sit and be alone, which is what we have to thank for this podcast existing in the first place.
Yep, that's correct. For all of you who can't just drive in your car in silence, welcome, and you are welcome. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your question of the week. Let's talk a little bit more about Smallville. And we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. A young Clark Kent struggles to find his place in the world as he learns to harness his alien powers for good and deal with the typical troubles of teenage life in Smallville, Kansas. Which, yep, that is what we watched today, with maybe a little bit more CGI than I think all of us were expecting.
Yeah.
But before we dive in too deep, Max, can you tell folks how this show got made.
Today, we are talking about the pilot episode of Smallville, which originally aired on October 16th, 2001 on the WB. And we're talking about the show's creators, Alfred Goh and Miles Millar, a bit more today. So we're talking about Goh, Millar, and a whole slew of WB network executives. Goh and Millar meet at USC and as students sell a script to New Line Cinemas called Mango, in which a cop who's allergic to animals is partnered up with an orangutan. The film was never produced. But
allergic? That's it?
This film was never produced, and we need to make it happen. Like 35 years later.
$5 to buy that script.
We need to get Mango made, gentlemen. This is our new goal.
Does it involve Chris Kattan's character from SNL, Mango?
I believe this script predates Kattan.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think we can get Kattan. I think we can get him.
Yeah, that feels like too inside baseball, though. It feels too cheeky. Does Kattan play like cop detective to you guys? Does he read that way?
No, especially not as well. I don't know. Mango would probably have that. Having Mango be a cop would be propaganda. It's like, oh, you can't not love that character.
Anyway, back to our duo of Goh and Millar. They create the UPN show The Strip prior to Smallville, and in the years since have written action comedies including Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights, Showtime, Spider-Man 2, Herbie Fully Loaded, Beetlejuice, and are the creators of Netflix's Wednesday.
Wait, the new Beetlejuice movie is written by them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Dope.
Careful, I think that's now 3 times we've said it. This podcast is now cursed. Flashback to 2000. Our duo is working on a pilot at the WB based on the Arnold Schwarzenegger action film Eraser, when they're approached by Toll and Robbins Productions and network president Peter Roth about creating a young Superman series. Toll and Robbins had originally been looking to develop a teenage Batman series for the network, but the WB film department viewed the project as a conflict of interest. Goh and Millar had a strict rule of no tights, no flights, meaning that Clark Kent would not fly or wear the iconic suit in the series, and sought to strip the character to his bare essence. Not comic fans themselves or familiar with the universe, they felt they could offer an unbiased take on the character. Despite the superhero genre being at an all-time low, their pitch creates a bidding war for the rights between the WB and Fox, with WB winning out after offering a 13-episode guarantee order. In keeping with the network's audience, the show is required to maintain a, quote, middle America iconography, something that would speak to both action fans and viewers of Seventh Heaven. Since the show was bought on concept alone, the duo was writing scenes while casting, with scripts unavailable for those going in to read for its lead roles.
Interesting.
The show was in production in Vancouver, where the attacks of September 11th occurred, and premiering just 4 weeks later, took on a new sense of Americana and presented the series in a different light. Today's pilot is directed by David Nutter, David Nutter.
God damn it.
A 30-time...
He's a person.
That stopped you?
That's Max's kryptonite. Funny last names is Max's kryptonite.
A 3-time Emmy winner for his work on Band of Brothers and Game of Thrones.
Oh,
all right.
man.
Well, Max.
Wait, can I just say how bad of an idea a young Batman would be? That's just a rich kid with no trauma.
Well, Rich, you're now forgetting that Gotham had multiple seasons on Fox where it was extremely successful as a TV show and focused on young Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but that was much later than this show. Like, this
That's true.
Paved the way for something like that to exist, because we were dealing with Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze puns at this time.
We're going to talk about how I think this show opened up a lot of different opportunities and sort of
For money?
created some unrealistic expectations as well for things like potentially a movie that came out right around this time, and Tom Welling's relationship as well with the Superman character, because it's super interesting hearing him talk about it nowadays. But let's dive into this pilot a little bit more deeply. And we're going to start off with going back in time to 1989, where we see meteors and a unidentified alien object hurtling towards Earth, and it is homecoming at Smallville High. So I want to hear.
Go Crows.
I want to hear from the two of you, putting yourself in the perspective of. Let's imagine this is the first time that you're hearing about the Superman IP. You're just tuning into Smallville because you got WB. Mm-hmm. And what are you thinking of this small town America where we have a sassy flower shop owner who wants to steal Jonathan Kent from his wife?
Oh man, them Duke boys are at it again. That's Bo Duke on TV as Jonathan
Hell
Kent.
yeah, it is.
I saw so many bad CGI meteors hurling towards the Earth. I learned about the creamed corn capital of the world, and I was confused. I was entranced, but I was certainly confused.
Yeah, this entire opening sequence, which I believe takes 137 minutes to complete, is all over the place. It has like kind of minor character interactions mixed with just insane explosions and people reacting to people watching people dying.
That one couple got absolutely blasted by a meteor. Bam.
That's the
Direct
thing
hit.
that I think is super interesting about this, because if we're talking about, right, like something like Seventh Heaven or Dawson's Creek being an inspiration for doing a show like this, and you're like, oh, we're selling this show and we're getting people to tune into the premiere, because this premiere had a lot of people who tuned into it considering this was the WB, right?
Totally.
And you know what we want to see? We want to see a couple that's dealing with issues of having a child of their own, and then we want to see a 3-year-old girl watch her parents brutally die in front of her, as well as a town be ransacked by meteors, and then a child go through so much trauma of meteors in a cornfield that he loses his hair. And then let's fast forward 12 years in the future and see what happened to that town.
Oh
Right.
man, we're not going to talk about baby Clark do 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 baby Clark do 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 baby Clark do 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 baby Clark teenage Clark.
I mean, all right, so I'm going to come at this from a little bit of the nerd, and
Sure.
I want to sort of approach this episode.
Sure, we're
and for-
10 minutes in, where I appreciate you holding back this far.
Yeah, I'm going to approach this episode, and for our audience who is here for the first time, yes, I'm our comic book dork. I have comic books on my desk provided by my co-hosts. And what I will say about this opening is I think that this is one of the darker openings for the Superman series that does not get into why Clark is not on Krypton. And why Krypton no longer exists, because holy moly, does that remind people of things that are happening now.
Oh, God.
But it is seeing that horror. The Lana Langs character is a super interesting one in how she was made a protagonist in this series. And I love the opening of, hey, there's this little girl that's right around the same age as this little boy that mysteriously comes to this planet via this vessel. And I want to credit the writers on we don't know what's special about this little boy other than probably from this ship, right? Like that is inferred. But we don't see until a few minutes later that, oh, this is Clark Kent. And Clark Kent is a little bit different than your average American boy. But he
fell
does
from
want
the sky.
Yeah, he does want to do football, though. He wants to be on the football team. And I think that fast forward, and I want to talk to you guys about this, is while this is a show about a young Superman, it does really try to focus on the high school of it all in this pilot.
Totally.
Which I think is a really interesting way of, it's very easy to get distracted by the idea of laser beams and super speed and incredibly strong. But this pilot really tries to focus on the high school, being a young high schooler. And I'm curious for you two what you think about that.
A quick timeout that they're supposed to be high school freshmen because
Max, today you have had such a problem with 35-year-olds playing high schoolers when realistically that's your next role.
Tom Welling is not even that old. He's just like so chiseled that like the notion of him wanting to play high school football, like try as a freshman, and his dad being like, you can't, you're different. And I'm like, it's not, it wasn't even like super speed. It's like, no, he'll hurt the kids.
Did you guys have
You
like
can't,
the
you're
weight
different.
limits?
You're middle-aged.
You shave.
When you guys were in like when you were in Little League and stuff, did you have like the height and weight limits where like if you were too big, you could not play at that age? Yeah. So like there was one year where I was ruled out from playing like Little League basketball because I was too big. And it's just like Tom Welling in high school was told like, you're too large. You're too large. You're too in charge.
Oh, man. I distinctly remember playing baseball in 8th grade and there being a kid like who I was in middle school with who had just like chest hair and a beard in 8th grade.
Yeah, it was such
and that
a
was
weird
Aaron
time.
Judge.
That is the time you do have to like start quitting sports though, because there are certain people who will just like absolutely sprout up a year before you.
There is that one just comical scene where you have Sam Jones III playing Pete Ross, and he's in the football equipment that is obviously just hysterically too large to make him look even smaller. And yeah, of course I was chuckling when I saw that. Like,
ironic because he had a breakout role in Blue Mountain State as well, where he wore football
where he
pads
dominated in football pads.
Well, wardrobe got him ones that fit for that show, Rich.
So let's focus in on this high school though, because we see Clark miss the bus. We get our first instance of seeing some superpowers happen, but then we get just a very normal high school interaction of boy sees girl that he has a crush on, but boy who tries to interact with girl and realizes he cannot, maybe for some other reasons, but it's very normal.
We never see him use it, but Clark does arrive to school with a skateboard on his backpack to establish it's 2001. It is canon that Clark shreds.
That's how he got to school so fast. He skateboarded.
Get me the Superman skateboard, please. Like, I want to see that comic book where Superman's just shredding with Tony Hawk.
Oh,
and
you
that
told
is
me
a collaboration.
Lex Luthor got you new trucks?
But Jeff, to your point of like, we get to high school and it's about, being freshmen and wanting to try out for the football team, both for athletic competition, but also to avoid hazing rituals. We get the whole thing of, oh, he's such a dork, he can't get within 5 feet of Lana, the girl he has a crush on, only to reveal her glowing kryptonite necklace. The one giveaway that I thought they were going to call out, and I'm glad they didn't, is when we first see Clark walking with Pete Ross, and then at this point an unnamed girl, and they go, oh, ignore our intrepid reporter. I'm like, she's gonna be Lois Lane, isn't she? Like, that's gonna be Lois. And I'm so glad they didn't do that.
What if I told you for like the first 4 seasons they don't introduce Lois, but instead,
why would you? They're adult friends.
They focus on the idea of Lana Lang, who happens to be Lois's cousin. And we only learn that way later in the show.
I have a cousin who lives in the big city.
Yeah. Also, Metropolis and Smallville are like two cities that like a third grader would come up with for a short story.
That's always the part that I find so funny about the idea of Smallville and like why they chose Kansas is because the writers of Superman were both from Cleveland, right? And so Metropolis is based. The new James Gunn movie was filmed
in Cleveland.
In Cleveland. It was like a lot of it was filmed in Cleveland. You're going to recognize a certain Cleveland baseball stadium used for a very large scene in the movie.
It's so hard to imagine disasters happening to a place like Cleveland.
Jeff, I need to stop you there. No one's going to recognize Cleveland.
Unless you see specifically the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I want to apologize to our Cleveland listeners because I know there are some. Max does not speak for all of us when it comes to Motor City.
While we're just talking WB and superheroes, I do love that they did the first 2 Christopher Nolan Batman movies in Chicago. It's downtown Chicago, and then all of a sudden it's Pittsburgh, and it's like, it's Pittsburgh now. Shut
Gotham
up.
is everywhere.
Every place is Gotham. We are all Gotham. That is what we learned by the end of that series of movies.
With all the goodwill we just bought from the Drew Carey Show episode, we just threw it away.
So while all of this typical high school behavior is going on, there is this other character that we do get these small little doses of, with the idea of Lex Luthor, played by Michael Rosenbaum,
right?
Who, credit to him, if he shaved his head, congratulations for doing that.
And eyebrows.
Yeah, but the idea of seeing these two very different worlds literally collide in this one moment where we have the most mopey Clark Kent in the world because he can't talk to the girl that he likes, and then Lex Luthor just be like, what if I smashed my like fucking amazing Porsche into this man going at least 105 miles per hour.
It was an accident. He was texting.
But this was one of those moments where we start to see a little bit of how TV approaches the idea of superpowers. And we talked a little bit about the CGI of it all earlier, right? Like CGI just was not where it is today when it came to these things. But what did you think of the practical effects or the effects that they used to sort of show like, hey, Clark is Superman. Like Clark is otherworldly strong.
It did feel a little bit Universal Studios tour, like effects. Like it was very like, you know, yeah, there's a CGI meteor that hit a building, and then a stagehand throws a bag of prop rocks out of the building. It was not very like, I don't know. It almost felt like they could have accomplished a lot more just avoiding it entirely. If they just talked about the meteor shower and then like had like flashbacks to it or something like that, that could have been easily solved. But it like really, I'm sure in 2001 it looked fucking great. But it felt weird watching it now.
But I think that's where the show plays into the strengths of like watching Clark discover his abilities and what makes him special through something like jumping into the water to save someone from a car.
Yeah.
And you could do that, you know, and I read how they filmed this where it's, you know, 50-foot water tank on a back lot, and you can just film that incredibly practical. And that allows you to show Clark as like as a real hero. It's something that obviously is extraordinary because he was just fucking wrecked by a Porsche and knocked off of a bridge. But the heroic act of saving a drowning person is relatable. It is normal. It is very like all American.
How much cocaine do you think the Luthor family has done?
I mean,
it's a lot more than zero.
they own a fertilizer company, right? So who the hell knows what that really means? You know, we have this instance, and this does sort of set off the idea of one of the themes that I think is very apparent in the show is the role of Jonathan Kent, while a father figure, is also supposed to be this moral compass throughout this entire show. And I'll give John Schneider all the credit in the world. I think he does a great job of playing that role and setting the tone of, this is what happened, this is where you came from. We did not adopt you.
Right.
We found you basically in this gigantic ship. And it brings along this interesting idea of guilt that Clark now feels for what has happened. Like, he caused Lana Langs' parents to die. He caused all of these people in the town to go through such hardship 12 years ago.
Yeah, in a way that, like, I caused the Iraq War. Like, it was like, yeah, I was in the place where it happened, or I was in the country where they decided to do it, but I didn't do it myself, nor was it my choice. Like, I mean, nerd out on me a little bit, Geoff. Like, is that, like, what, was there a conscious decision to come to Earth? Was this an accident?
All right, so we're let me okay. I'm gonna give myself 1 minute, and I'm timing myself for this. So let's do this. So what happened? In Krypton, there was a gigantic civil war because there was the government that was, and I might fuck this up, nerd. So please correct me.
You have 60 seconds, Geoff.
There was the idea that there were a faction of people that thought they could save Krypton, and there were a faction of people that realized that Krypton was dying because of too many natural resources being used and causing the core of the planet to explode. So Kal-El, aka Superman, was saved by his parents and sent to a planet where he could survive, aka Earth. And they had the idea that the red sun would be able to increase his powers and his strength. Now, Zor-El, who is Superman's uncle, who caused the political war, comes way later, but he's the person that caused the planet to explode, and Superman's actual father saved him because he was like, someone has to survive from the Kryptonians. Done, 55 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think and I'm going to congratulate this pilot. There is a version where they try doing that, right? Where they try to do like, what if we told you about the gigantic Civil War in 3 minutes of a 45-minute pilot? And then you're just sitting there being like, will we ever talk about this again? And the answer is yes, in like 5 seasons. It's not going to be right now.
Yeah.
Right, but this is written by 2 dudes who made a movie about a cop and an orangutan. Like, we need to keep that in mind.
But I want to talk about the
I
idea
can't capture
of
that magic again.
I want to talk about the idea of these 2 dudes who wrote this movie about a cop and an orangutan, because for the most part of this show, it does have a certain tone that's associated with it, right? That it very much feels like this is a Dawson's Creek-esque with superpowers. Dawson Creek-esque with superpowers. But there's one scene in particular that stood out to me and my wife when we were watching it. And I'm wondering if it stood out to you. And that was the graveyard scene where Clark and Lana approach each other. Because boy, did this seem like an entirely different TV show, or I mistakenly changed the channel. And that's nothing against these 2 actors, right? But I think it might be time for some TV pilots license theater.
I think so too. And Max, while you're doing your vocal warm-ups, would you rather be Lana or would you rather be Clark?
I'll take on the role of Lana. I'll play Lana Lang.
All right. So to set the scene, we are in a graveyard at night. There's a sound of hooves in the air. In this script, she's on horseback, which is fucking insane. I think this is from the original pilot, so this might be a little bit different than what ended up in the actual show. But she whips her head around in the direction of the noise that she hears.
Who's there?
It's me, Clark.
Clark Kent? What are you doing creeping around the woods?
You'd never believe me if I told you. I didn't mean to scare you.
Clark, wait. I'm sorry. I just wasn't expecting to see anyone out here.
He turns back, looks into her face with a longing sadness.
Are you okay?
Define okay.
Better than average? Not quite excellent?
I'm hanging out in a graveyard. Does that strike you as okay behavior?
Hey, I'm here too.
Good point. What's your story?
Can you keep a secret?
I'm the Fort Knox of secrets. I couldn't do it.
I came out here to talk to my parents. You must think I'm pretty weird, conversing with dead people.
I don't think you're weird. Lana, do you remember them?
They died when I was 3. Sometimes I catch glimpses in the back of my head. I never thought I could miss people I hardly knew.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault, Clark. Ooh. Come on. I'll introduce you.
She takes his arm and leads him to a marble headstone glowing in the moonlight.
Mom, Dad, this is Clark Kent. Say hi.
Hi.
Yeah, he is kind of shy. How should I know? Mom wants to know if you're upset about a girl.
The Clark shakes his head.
Dad wants to know if you're upset about a boy.
No.
He's got a twisted sense of humor. Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe the WB got rid of the gay comment.
All right, Rich, this goes for like 3 more pages, I think.
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else that I absolutely had to see in here. Okay, this is Clark now talking to Lana's parents. What's that, Mrs. Lang? Yeah, we'll tell her. Your mom wants you to know that that you're never alone and that they'll always be watching over you, no matter.
All this to say, this is our second high school show in a row that takes a completely different tonal approach to high school problems, high school angst. This is comically evil jocks. This is so melodramatic in its emotions. It's big feelings. Do you think it works as a high school show?
Not with this writing.
So to answer that question, I sort of have to put myself back in the time of when this show was made, right? Because when we did Never Have I Ever, that's a lot more recently made of a show. That was only 5 years ago, right? While this is a 24-year-old show, Jesus Christ. And it is one of those things where I'm thinking of the other things that are on TV at this time, like Dawson's Creek. And I'm like, this feels in tone very similar to that show. Is it written as well as that show? No. that show is written, or this show is written by someone who wrote about a cop and an orangutan, if I'm getting that correctly.
There's
Also, Owen Wilson as a cowboy.
Yeah. And I think that is why I pinpoint this scene as like one where I'm just like, if I could get rid of any part of this pilot, what part would I get rid of? And I point at this and I'm saying that is the albatross of this pilot, where I'm just like, every other part of it, I'm sort of like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, this fits into this show.
What didn't you like about I'm a Fort Knox of secrets?
I think there's something more secure out there, and I'm not sure yet, but I'll get back to you.
I mean, there is also, like, okay, if I could give it a little bit of credit, the teen dealing with their powers, and the powers being like a metaphor for uniqueness, I guess. It's like standing out or whatever. It's the same as Buffy. It's like, I have these powers, but no one can know about it. And, it's just like a different thing. And Buffy has like a calling to do it, and so does Clark, and that's like the what they wrestle with. But, I like what they've done with what they're given. You didn't fucking need the graveyard scene.
Well, I think it's just this idea of we keep trying to hammer home this Clark and Lana relationship. These two people from opposite ends of the, social circles of this high school. And we already do the Clark watches her from afar with a telescope because they're neighbors out in the sticks of Smallville.
He's a big old creep.
We already do that he trips over himself trying to meet her, and just this longing sense. But it's like adding this onto it too. It just feels like it's so much trying to hammer home this relationship in a pilot, whereas that feels like something that you could develop over time in a season.
If you're writing a show about high school, it's gonna be about hooking up. Everything. It's like what only teenagers are thinking of. It's the case with Big Mouth. It's the case of Never Have I Ever. It's Dawson's Creek. It's fucking what's it called? Gossip Girl that we just did. It's all these shows. It's like there's just, how the fuck do I deal with hormones?
So one of the main things that this show, because this show isn't just going to be emotional trauma, right? Like Clark Kent moping around being like, oh, I killed Lana's parents, because that would be, I don't think that show lasts nearly as long as this one, or you're going to sell that as easily to network executives. There's got to be a bad guy of the week, right? And in the back third of this pilot, we really start to focus on that idea of, let's see Superman be super, but on a much smaller scale, in a small town way. And we get the conflict of Clark is left alone in the field in this iconic shot with the S painted on his chest with the kryptonite necklace. So all of the teen girls go, I want to watch that show because there's a man who is basically on a crucifix who looks great right now.
Is it intentional that they do the S on his chest for Smallville, obviously? But like, is that just like, is that like a wink to the Superman
100%.
S, or is it
so
just
what
like the reason he has it?
What if I told you that is almost the closest we get to seeing Tom Welling wear a Superman costume on this entire show?
I would argue the closest we get is when the paramedics are checking in on him and Lex on the banks of the river.
He's wearing the cape.
And they put they drape him in the big red blanket to keep him warm, and he walks out of frame with the blanket looking like the iconic red cape. The eyes rolled all the way to the back of my head for that one.
But this show, when it does action, I'm curious for the two of you, because this is a show that's trying to get a lot of different people, young boys, teenagers, to watch and be like, ooh, Superman. Do you think that the action of this villain of the week draws you in and is enticing enough to be like, ooh, I want to see Clark win?
I found the final battle a little anticlimactic with him trying to stop this boy who 12 years ago was hazed and then ended up in a coma and gained powers from the meteor shower. And like, that final conflict felt a little underwhelming and resolved too quick. It really, Like they were
Right.
battling and there was like 3 minutes left in the episode. It's like, how are we going to wrap this up like in a way that feels impactful? But I do think that setting it up as this high school revenge story
Right.
is key to what matters in Smallville. It's about high school politics through the lens of a supervillain, and establishing that versus the villain we all know in Lex Luthor, I think gives Smallville like a unique perspective, even if I didn't think it necessarily wowed me with who they chose.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes that this is kind of like a two trains pilot, where it's like there are two trains approaching each other at one speed on one track, and you know where it's going to end up. But it's like the journey is fun of seeing like Lex Luthor and Spider-Man, Jesus Christ, Superman. Clip it, put it on TikTok, get that engagement, get that rage bait engagement.
Get the oh my God.
But I think they do a good job of like making that be the thing that you know is going to pay off. And yeah, and they have multiple instances of them meeting. Obviously, Lex buys him a truck to thank him for saving his life. There's like, oh, how is this going to eventually develop into hatred?
Yeah. I think that this show this pilot especially tries to set up a lot of like, here's a little seed there, here's a little seed here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different seeds. There's a lot of different. So if you follow us for the full 13 order episode, full 13 orders, these are all the things that we are going to approach at least in season 1.
Yes.
And hopefully you follow to season 2, 3, 4, however many that they get. And I'll commend them on that. Like that to me is just smart storytelling, especially for this type of audience. You have to be able to hook them in whatever way you get.
Right.
You get. And maybe some people are super into the idea of the wall of weird that we are given, or some people are like romance and high school chemistry, and then other people want to just,
My favorite thing about the wall of weird is that it's all stuff from one town with only 45,000 people in it, and the adults haven't figured it out. There's people suffering an immense amount of like tragedies and deformities and weird instances and powers and stuff like that. The one news clipping of someone saying that they lost one finger on one hand and then gained another finger on their other hand.
They're sitting in rocking chairs going like, it's because people don't pray no more.
Which it only makes me think of like the little like like the stupid like magic trick you do with kids.
Whoa! Where did your fingers just go, Rich?
So our pilot ends very unceremoniously. I feel like we get Clark imagining that Lana comes to see him because he didn't show up to homecoming, even though he saved the day and he was this unspoken hero. And then she's still the girl next door that he sees coming home from homecoming. And our pilot ends with just a little bit of ass rock music and some credits.
Oh, buddy.
Bet your ass.
Oh, buddy. But that is our pilot, gentlemen. I'd love to hear from the two of you if there were any things that you loved, things that you want to give a little bit more shine from this pilot.
I mean, I was going to give a shout out to the soundtrack of it, because you can tell this is greenlit in 2000, because holy cow, this is nothing but butt rock.
And I will say this show does not have the iconic theme song Save Me, which is like, holy shit, this show has one of my favorite theme songs. I'm not going to sing it because I don't want us to get demonetized or a strike. But
and Geoff does have perfect pitch for everyone listening at home.
You know it. But this is a show that just has a killer soundtrack throughout, so highly recommend if you are into music.
Yeah, and capturing that the high school jock bullies when they kidnap Clark would absolutely be blasting nu metal in that truck when they did it.
Yeah, this is the Disturbed. This is the Power Man 5000 crowd.
Max, what about yourself? Any things that you loved about this pilot?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. I do like that it ends with that like teenage yearning and that sense of at the end of the day he's still just I think it's canonically like 14 or 15 years
Fucking
old,
hell.
just pining for the girl next door. I also want to give a quick shout out to Lana's boyfriend bragging about how coach says a scout from Kansas State is coming to the big game this week. So I looked it up, and the 2002 Kansas State Wildcats did go 11-2 to win the Holiday Bowl that year. So if he does go to Kansas State, he'll be joining a pretty good team in the Big 12 as a freshman.
That's so dumb. What about you, Jeff?
I loved, even though this show was not written by folks who were like super into the lore of DC, someone was when they looked over this script, and specifically when they made props and stuff. There are a lot of little clues that are thrown in here that are amazing. Specifically, my favorite was Lionel Luthor was reading a newspaper that said the CEO of Queen Industries had gone missing and was presumed dead. That is the Green Arrow's dad, and the Green Arrow was also on the same yacht when that happened and went disappeared with him. And it's like there's a lot of little things like that where you're like, oh, we're gonna talk about that soon, and like, oh, that's really fun, and I can see how it. And
I love that Spider-Man episode.
To give everyone perspective,
Debate
DC was
in the comments.
DC was in a really weird place at this point in time as far as like movies and stuff like that. And I can see how someone was really who cared about this property.
Boy, did they lose that race.
Universe, try to give a little bit of care to this show and try to make sure that everyone who watched it, even the super fans, were like, oh, that's cool. And like, that's fun, and geek out about it before comic book culture really took over, like maybe 8 years later.
For sure.
Let's talk about wait a minute moments, things that cause you pause. I feel like you both might have one, or two, or three.
I got two.
Yeah, I got two too.
All right, so I'm going to let you.
What you got, Max?
All right, so first off, Lex being in his early 20s and having an obsession with wanting to befriend a 14-year-old was real weird to me. I mean, even though Clark looks older than Lex, the fact is, dude, you're still like 8 years older. This is a high school freshman. You keep wanting to hang out. Clark finding his house. All of it's kind of weird relationship-wise. Second wait a minute moment. Lex's car's license plate being registered to Metropolis. That is a city, not a state. You cannot get your car registered to a city.
It's so funny. Mine were also really nitpicky. There's no house number in the address on the permission slip for Clark Kent, which is fucking stupid. It just says like Meadow Lane or whatever the hell his address was. And then second, that cheer practice is way too close to the field. Take a step back. You are getting in the way. You are going to end up getting hurt for no reason. Take a step back.
And third, where was Spider-Man?
Where was Spider-Man? When are they going to get to the fireworks factory?
Oh my god!
When are we going to see people use Luthor fertilizer?
My only wait a minute moment, and this might sound savage. Lana's parents saw that meteor going right towards them and didn't move a fucking wink. Are you kidding me? How bad was life that you looked at a meteor hurtling towards you and said, good enough? Like that was insane. And like that was such a brutal way to like start a show where you're like, what if a 3-year-old watched their parents die right in front of them?
It's hands down the most violent thing in the entire pilot.
Yeah, and then we see that, and then you see the parents, and they're like, oh, hi, sweetie, and they just look up. There's a full fucking beat. Like, there's enough time for them to jump or do something, and they're just standing there, and then, boom, they're dead. Like, holy shit. That is insanity to me. Like, I make fun of the idea of, like, oh, did Bruce Wayne's parents really die by getting shot behind an opera? And then I'm like, you know what? That's more realistic than someone looking at something hurtling towards them and being like, all right, I'm fine. Like,
yeah, dying turkey style. Just staring up at a rainstorm.
We do have an in-flight question. We have one more question. This in-flight question comes into us from Kimmy in New Hampshire. And Kimmy asks, what superhero do you want to follow through high school? We talked a little bit about how Batman was a potential. We talked a little bit about an entire pilot where Superman went through high school. Is there one, maybe a popular one, maybe a less popular one that's just in your mind that you want to see go through high school?
Baby Hulk, do 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 do, baby Hulk, do do.
So you want to see?
I want to see
pre-Hulkification,
pre-doctorate, pre-job, pre-Hulkification. He's just a guy.
He's a dork.
Yeah.
He's just a dork in high school who's like, one day I'll be great. And that's the entire premise of the show.
Because there are two angles for this. They're regular people and something happens to them when they're adults. Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, I assume his first name is Doctor. And then there's like people who actually are supernatural. I'm gonna go Teenage Wonder Woman. I'm gonna go what happens when you're just like, I don't know, taking that and just what it's like to be from this race of people with like all this like culture and background to it, and just exploring. Basically, I'm trying to do Smallville, but gender swap is what I'm pitching.
Okay, I like it.
I like it.
When does she get her powers? Canonically,
Wonder Woman. She's born with them.
She's born with them. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe she's Wonder Woman.
And like she also can't try out for sports because she's different and she's so much taller than all the other girls.
Yeah, she flies and she drives a clear car.
For myself, with this question, I'm gonna go with Cyborg, because Cyborg, the story of that is super duper interesting. In the idea that he was in high school, he was supposed to be a scholarship athlete, and then there was a terrible accident, and that's why he became Cyborg, which is, I think, could be a really cool drama if you did that right. But like,
all right,
it's sort of like in a Frankenstein's monster capacity. It could be like a really good miniseries even.
If some Marvel AI learning software is listening to this right now, that is a trademarked idea by Geoff Kerbis.
Yeah, no. But like if we did a Ray Fisher a Victor Stone type pilot, that's the name of Cyborg for the non-nerds.
Nice.
Then I would be really.
I've never even heard of Cyborg. That's how out of this I am.
I would. There's something fun there, and it's a great, tragic, but like cool story that they could do. Well, thank you for that in-flight question. If you have an in-flight question and you want to submit it to the show, you can shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail at 213-290-1713, or you can reach out to us on Instagram or shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com. Let's talk about the history of this show, gentlemen. There were 10 seasons and 218 episodes. And no, I did not include the 2 minutes that Tom Welling was on the Arrowverse crossover, because you dorks need to chill out. Let's talk about the ratings for this show. The show premiered and got 8.35 million viewers on the WB.
Oh, shit.
Which is insanity. The show first season then averaged 5.9 million viewers per episode in 2001, which is also wild. Like those are insane numbers. People like this so much that they were like, I'm gonna go with it. Here's some fun facts for you. Tom Welling was never seen in the Superman iconic outfit. This was a Tom Welling choice. He refused to ever appear in it because he did not think he was worthy of it. There was a Superman movie that came out during this show's run, and people wanted Tom Welling to be Superman, and he turned down the opportunity to go out for the role, which is also insane because he thought too much of the character. While the show had 10 seasons, it did have a comic book run called Season 11 Smallville that was ideas that were what would have happened if they got an 11th season. Then they treated it as like a series of different runs and storylines, which is really, really cool. There were some mini episodes featuring Allison Mack's character of Chloe that were featured on AOL. We could talk about the Allison Mack of this pilot, and we could talk about it in depth, but I choose not to. And I think that if you want to learn more about that, read about it. But I
I want to
there's
put this
lot.
a little bit into context for how popular this pilot is, because that number is fucking insane. How many did you say tuned in for the Smallville pilot?
For the premiere, 8.35 million.
8.35 million. I just looked up how many households the WB was even in 2001, and it was 7.4 million households. So the viewership is somehow larger than the amount of households even had the WB. That's bananas.
Well, we're counting the dogs and cats, Rich. You got to remember that. I do want to give this show credit for its brand partnerships, because I don't know if you guys saw the Kellogg's Corn Pops in the beginning, and the Honeycomb cereal as well.
Oh man, the fridge full of Pepsi and Mountain Dew the second Clark opened the door.
Is this related at all to like the original radio series? Was Kellogg's like the original sponsor of Superman?
I don't remember that, but I also want to point back to, in the Gossip Girl pilot, there was a gigantic bus ad that I pointed to as my things that I loved in brand partnership. This show had an episode where Stride Gum was one of its big partners.
Oh boy.
And they did kryptonite laced Stride Gum, causing a character to have elasticity powers, which is absolutely insane.
Listen,
that is so insane.
Really going back to the roots of the show.
Michigan J. Frog knows how expensive those CGI meteorites are and says, you're going to chew some fucking Stride Gum so we can pay for more meteorites.
So I do want to talk about the show being a launching off point for a lot of people that we now know today as household stars. Both Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley of Vampire Diaries fame got their start on this show in one-off characters. Alan Richardson was Arthur Curry, a.k.a. Aqualad and Aquaman. You also have
Smallville to Blue Mountain State pipeline is so strong.
Justin Hartley from This Is Us played the aforementioned Oliver Queen. Jensen Ackles was in this. Like, if you starred on a WB show, most likely, or a WB or CW show, most likely you had a small role or a big role in Smallville. Speaking of spinoffs, though, this show did have 2 attempted spinoffs. One was going to be based off of Alan Richardson's Aquaman. Richson, excuse me. Please don't beat me up, Alan. You're way too big. Big and scary. There were spin-off attempts. Unfortunately, there were 5 pilot episodes made. It never got picked up. As far as the Green Arrow, there were a lot more appearances of Justin Hartley on the show, but he actually said he did not want that show to be made. He thought that the arc of the character on the show was well done on Smallville. And then just a few years later, Green Arrow appeared on CW and had a very successful, I believe, 10-season run, which is also insane. There was talks about a animated series revival with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling at the helm of it. Supposedly those talks are still ongoing. There are so many DVDs for the show, including a 62-disc complete collection collector set that you can buy.
Tom Welling has to be like 63 years old right now, so he can play a college kid for only like another year.
Leave Tom Welling alone. He's 48 and doing fine. As far as merch, everything from books, magazines to role-playing games available. Let's talk about awards. 190 nominations, including 35 wins. That includes 3 Primetime Emmys for sound editing and 4 surfboards for Teen Choice Awards, 1 from Tom Welling for breakout character, and then 3 for Allison Mack. But unfortunately, and I haven't talked about this in a while, no slimings for anyone on this show, even though there was a Kids' Choice Award nomination. Gentlemen, that is the illustrious history of this show. Rich, it is time for your game of the week.
So if there's one standout thing about Superman as a teenager, it's that the fact that the Crow is the best mascot I could possibly imagine for a fucking football team. That rules. If your school has like an outdated or archaic or racist mascot, switch it over to the Crows. That rules. All right, so call. All right, so here's some crow facts. One of the most fascinating animals on our planet is in fact the crow. In addition to them being a menace to corn, crows have been known to play tricks, use tools, mourn their lost brethren, and hold grudges. In the mid-2000s in Japan, the crow population caused a series of blank. A, explosions. B, famines. C, blackouts. D, riots.
I'm going to say C, blackouts.
I was going to say blackouts as well.
That's right. They're building their nests inside fiber optic boxes that caused a series of blackouts over a 2-year span in Japan. In a 2005 book, apparently the mid-2000s were super big for crow knowledge, a research... big crow ears. A researcher discovered that crows have A, the ability to rhyme, B, regional accents, C, intergenerational songs, D, coming-of-age ceremonies.
I really hope it's regional accents. If it's not, I'm going to be really upset because I'm just thinking about a southern crow versus a northern crow.
I'm going to say intergenerational songs.
While intergenerational songs may be true, who knows? It is definitely regional accents.
Hell yeah.
They have been known to have differences in communication from valley to valley.
That's amazing.
Oh, they've got a valley accent?
Yeah. Like, yeah. And thanks for playing Crowfax.
Well, gentlemen, as our flight starts to come to a land, I have 2 questions for you. And that is, one, based off of the pilot and the pilot alone, are you going to watch more of this show? Because, boy, are there 217 more episodes for you to watch. And the second question is, we're in an interesting place as far as superheroes go. The Arrowverse just ended. Just is an extension of that word. Flash ended last year, ending the Arrowverse. Some may say, and literally every magazine talks about superhero fatigue and how people are just tired of it. And maybe that's because of Disney. Maybe it's Maybelline. But I want to hear from the two of you. Do you think we have a place for superhero shows that are a little bit more, may we call it, down to earth? So, gentlemen, what are you thinking? Rich?
I'm actually giving the show a second episode, which honestly surprised me. I did quite enjoy some of the buildup of tension between, or like buildup of relationship between Lex and Clark. I think I just want to see like a little bit more like character development and stuff like that. And I think they did a good job of like teasing what might happen and leaving that up for the viewers to guess. When it comes to superhero stuff, boy, I'm pretty fucking sick and tired of this IP. I'm so goddamn tired of everything having to be Marvel or DC or Star Wars. The only reason Andor got made when it was supposedly like an actual really good story, but they had to set it in the Star Wars universe to get made. There have been shows. There's like a Mafia TV show or something like that takes place in the Penguin show. It's like a Mafia TV show that they couldn't get made until they made it about fucking Batman. Just relax on the same 20 guys that you keep going back to. There have been a lot more good ideas since 1964. You're fine. Make something new.
Max?
I'm actually out on this one. This is a no for me. I just didn't find myself really connected to either the high school element they were going for or the superhero element. Kind of left me in a gray area where I was maybe distracted by some of the overt nods and winks to Superman that kept me from really diving in. As to your second question, I also think I'm out on doing more grounded versions of superheroes. The allure of superheroes is that it is not grounded. It is not tethered to reality. And when you try to do these hyper-realistic versions, you lose so much of like that gloss and shade that makes comics entertaining. And I would rather just see things that feel like comic books on a big screen than try to chisel it and shape it down into some sort of grounded modern prestige drama or high school show that is bound by the rules of reality.
No, dude, wait till you see this next show. It's Daredevil before he goes blind. He's just a guy. He's just a guy.
Oh my god. Well, I'll end us with, I'll watch more of this. Are you guys expecting something? Are you expecting a different?
Water is wet.
For those of you playing at home, you won today's bet.
Is
Max-
Smallville the creamed corn capital of the world? Of course he's going to watch.
No shit.
Max,
Everybody knows
nana
that.
poo poo. I got Rich to agree with me as far as
I got one more. You get one more. You get 45 more minutes out of me.
as far as the grounded superhero TV shows go, there is a dependence on these by a lot of networks. I think they're starting to learn that,
Maybe.
oh no, we might have given too much of a good thing. And I'm hoping that we see a little bit of a change. You've seen it with Marvel's production schedule, that they're really bringing it back to like maybe one a year. Like, let's just do one and hope that that's fine. But at the same time, for folks who are like, I really like this superhero genre, but I want to like get more of it, go and buy a fucking comic book, please. Like,
Yeah.
I say this in the idea that I think that one of the reasons I like comics so much is because of some of the storylines are so insane, and you read them and you're like, oh, that's like, if you want to get a good start, go and read Superman Red Sun. It is one of my favorite comic graphic novels that ever came out. It's really, really good. It's a really cool one-off. And with that said, sure, studios aren't going to listen. Studios are going to bleed something to death and then hope that it still produces when it's dry.
It's oil drilling.
Yeah.
We found this
100%.
hole with oil in it, and we're going to keep going until there's nothing left, and then we're going to look for the next hole.
But Rich, make no mistake. Am I going to see the new Superman movie? Hell yeah, I am.
Yeah.
James Gunn. I hope that this thing fucking slaps because I am so pumped, and
I'm
will be
shocked you're
so
not
sad.
recording from an AMC right now.
I am in line right now. This is
Joke's
all
on
CGI.
you. It's not about Superman. It's a buddy comedy between Skylar Gisondo and Beck Bennett.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Well, gentlemen, thank you for humoring me on this episode, and our flight is coming to a land. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you want to be found. So, Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me hanging out by the old wall of weird back here. And you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find original sketch comedy from Max and I at Dadwagon Comedy on TikTok.
Max?
Oh, you can catch me at the Smallville Crows Booster Club meeting and on all things social media at Maxwell Sig. Caw.
Oh, my God. And you can find me, wait, what is that hurtling towards me in the sky? Who cares? But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with your friends because it really helps us out each and every time. If you have questions for the podcast, you can shoot those to us via email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com. You can also shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff that we have coming up, including a lot of fun things and maybe even a special guest or two. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
That's it.